Hi there, welcome back. I'm Sean, and this is Sean Turns Up the Volume. So, today I wanted to continue with my series on when the left goes too far. And the first point I had made in my previous video, my intro video, was that I saw this as beginning with Obama and his presidency. Um, the kind of rhetoric, the kind of hostility coming from the president himself, maligning a portion of the country, half the country, seemed to intensify in a way at least I hadn't seen under Bush. I was kind of too young for Clinton. Um, I was a kid in the '90s, not as much aware then, whereas I was in high school by the 2000s and more aware of what was going on with Bush. But there seemed to be a change in um, how he spoke about Americans. I remember that Obama would often talk down to those who disagreed with him. He was often seemed to be kind of pointing his finger and talking down to Americans and specifying conservative Americans. He'd seem to mock God, God, guns, and something. I think there were three there that he criticized that was clearly aimed at conservatives, but it's been a long time, right? It's been a long time since his first and second presidency. But I remember that while all this so much attention on Trump as far as his way of being president and the loss of decorum for the presidential office, and yet as polished as Obama was during his presidency and the eloquence with which he could speak, he often used it to malign our country. I remember under that presidency, the flames of racial hatred were being stoked. I remember the talk of from people like Eric Holder of how our country needs to have this conversation on race and racism, and so the systemic oppression narratives were beginning to be pushed then, and that Obama had his pen and his phone, and so kind of conveying he conveyed a sort of a mandate that the people spoke, that he got the majority, and so as the majority, he's going to go full steam forward, just boom ahead with left wing Democrat emerging radical policies, moving from whatever Democrats were to where really the radicals were taking the party. And he was instigating that and using more executive orders. I think he outdid anybody with executive orders, but don't quote me on that. But I remember that conservatives, Republicans, were fired up about this. They thought that Obama might try to run for a third term, that he might not leave office and become a dictator, that he wanted to round up people and their guns and do gun confiscation, that he might just overthrow the Constitution, the government, things like that. There's a lot of worry on the right. The same kind of stuff that we see going on from the left with Trump. A lot of the same kind of concerns were going on from the right under Obama. And yet we didn't burn down cities. And yet we didn't commit assassinations, right? There's a difference there. While the people on the right felt like their rights were under attack and their country was under attack, the most basic principles were under attack. At the same time, we sucked it up and dealt with it and complained on the internet or to one another as the fundamental transformation Obama said he wanted to do to America, as that was taking place. It's that kind of language, the very fact that he came from being a community organizer with, if you become familiar with communist sorts of language, lingo, if you look back into history, like that kind of lingo is basically stir up discontent in the community, basically organize for what's ultimately like socialist kind of policies, and you see that in the Obamacare, in pushing for really breaking our healthcare system under the idea that it would be helping with the making healthcare affordable, right? Laws rarely do the things that they are framed as doing. You call something affordable, it's probably not going to make things affordable. You say it's going to decrease inflation, it's probably not. You call a law patriotic, like the Patriot Act, it's probably going to be all about locking down control in the country. So it's usually the opposite of what it means, unfortunately. And so, things like that, he switched his stance from initially portraying himself as like pro, just like conservative marriage position, which Hillary did as well, to shifting over to being pro gay marriage and advocating for that kind of thing. Of course, wanting socialized healthcare for our country. So there's this shift where policies, positions that were more radical positions that have been simmering in academia behind the scenes and being fomented in colleges and subtly in media and TV and journalism and things were more actively coming out under the Obama campaign or under his administration. So I see the left really took their own turning point farther towards the left, farther away from what was considered like normal traditional American things and the sorts of things that Democrats and Republicans would argue about. The hostility and the temperature was being raised under that, which led to then the reaction, which was Trump and conservatism regaining, it's finding its passion and voice and vision, which was really lacking on the right. So that is another place where I see that the left went too far in the sorts of policies and towards the divisive and demeaning attitude that was coming from the Obama administration, which then, like, if you don't like Trump, well, it's Obama that led us to Trump. Even his specific joking at the notion of Trump running for office, like that lit a fire under Trump to go for it. So we can put that maybe at the feet of Obama. So again, if you like this kind of thing, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.